Yeah, my name is Matt Aselton, and I directed Gigantic, which is a movie starring Paul Dano, Zooey Deschanel, John Goodman, Ed Asner, Jane Alexander, and it's a story about Paul Dano's character, who's a 28-year-old mattress salesman, and he's kind of trying to adopt a Chinese baby. And he meets Zooey Deschanel. They have an odd relationship, an odd flirtation, and because neither of them are really sure about what they're doing with their lives, kind of thing. And that's basically the story. It's not so simple. It's, you know, there's a homeless assassin who's sort of a representation of Paul's dark side, demon shadow, that is played by Zach Galifianakis, who's constantly beating Paul up throughout the course of the movie. That's kind of it.
Well, it comes from it's a fairly straight story at face value, right? It's like a boy meets girl, boy fights girl, you know, maybe they get along, then they, you know, wind up together. So like, I think we wanted to make it, add some dynamics to that and make it a little harder. And I feel like adding Ed Asner as Paul's dad, who's 50 years older than Paul, you know, sort of puts Paul in a unique position of maybe not having a real childhood and maybe wanting to, in some way, create a childhood out of that. And Goodman and Zooey have a, you know, odd umbilical relationship that makes them, you know, unique. And, you know, I think we, you know, with a story like this, it's better to make it harder to swallow than to make it easy.
I think the seed of the story started with just trying to, we talked about, I wrote the movie with Adam Nagata about, you know, developing what is a guy who hasn't really had a childhood, who has older parents. Maybe he wants to adopt a baby to make some sort of sense out of his own lost childhood. So it kind of started there, and then we sort of built these characters.
Well, you know, I had my youngest brother. I'm a family of 6, and I have a younger brother who I think he felt a little forsaken in that he was the last boy in the family, and I think he wanted my parents to adopt a baby, and he was adamant about it. Like the scene where Ed Asner says he got Paul a chrome mongoose, a bike for his birthday. My dad did that too. My brother had, you know, he was young and obsessed for whatever reason he wanted a baby. He wanted my parents to adopt a baby. So I
kind of just wanted to have a survey of the American family landscape for the last, you know, 60, 70 years. What is it like? And you know, it's admittedly an odd group of individuals, and they kind of all crash and collide.
Yeah, not anybody specifically. I think it's just like listening to people talk more than anything. You know, the word quirky has been coming up so much, and I just find that to be, I don't know, it's just like, what does that really mean? You know, you walk down the street and like you see how strange it is out there. Like, you know, what am I? You know, if you're not seeing that, I don't think you're paying attention. So, which doesn't mean that, you know, everybody's weird and you know there are normal people, I guess, but I don't really know many of them. So I just think listening to people over the years and finding voices that you think are interesting is, you know, like who really wants to make a movie about normal people.
The process was we wrote the script in 2006 and then sent it to, you know, the various outlets, managers and actors and agents. And first Paul came back and he had read the script, and he had just, I think he was either just coming back from Texas or about to go to Texas to do There Will Be Blood. And he really liked it, and we understood it together, and we talked about it, and he came back, we were ready to, you know, start setting up the structure of the movie. And once Paul was involved, shortly thereafter Zooey came on, and she liked the script, and, you know, she's a really interesting girl and had a nice take on it. And so once the two of them were together, that was the most important part for the movie. And then very luckily I begged John Goodman for months and months and months to do it, and finally he said yes. and that sort of set up the core of it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, you know, and this is why we'd written for John, the character Al Lally. I think that we wrote for him because he does do those two things. He's a Jackie Gleason of sorts, you know, and he can be so funny but so soft at the same, you know, in a moment's time. He's two things. So I think that, you know, I like those kinds of people that are like, you know, he's blustery, he's bombastic, and, you know, like, you know, anti-Semitic, homophobic, yet caring, and he loves his daughter and apologetic about his own way. So yeah, it's an interesting character. But he, as an actor, is particularly suited to that character, I think.
I think we tried to do as little on-screen as possible. You know, it's kind of like tricky territory, like depression, and, you know, how do you show depression? And, you know, one way is to have Paul moping around and woe is me the whole time, and, you know, like, you know, taking various medications. We didn't want to do that. We just sort of wanted to hint at all of these things and see if we couldn't flesh out the backstories through the course of the movie, as opposed to, you know, writing it all into the first act. So it's definitely something we talked about with the actors, and it's certainly something that we attempted to do without being heavy-handed.
If you find it confounding, you will continue to find it. There's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to make you feel better about it. And I find, you know, I've had people come over to me after festivals and, you know, mad. Like, why is he in there? It could have just been such an easy story. You didn't have to do it. You didn't have to do it. And yeah, you know, you don't have to do those things. I liked it. Originally it was going to be Gene Wilder.
Really?
Then we met Gene Wilder, and he's just writing now. He's not really acting anymore. He's also older and frailer, and, you know, and this required, you know, a lot of physical violence and stuff like that. That wasn't going to be easy.
That's a good question. They should. I mean, I don't know. It depends on who you are. I feel like this is a story that's it's different, and it's not exactly a boy meets girl, boy gets girl story, and there's some unfulfilled elements to it, and it's not traditional storytelling, and there's some unexplained things. So I think it's challenging for some people to see the film because they don't get everything they want out of it. But you know, he's a great actor. I think Zoe's great. I think Goodman's great, and I think people go to see movies to see their movie stars more than they go to see anything else. And I feel like these performances by these guys and Zoe and Jane are really, really terrific. So I'd say if you like these actors, go see the movie.